Hello and welcome. My name is Shadow Retro and I am doing a tier list for today's video. But before we get into the tier list, I do have a few things to talk about. I have to make you aware of a community tier list project that I will be doing in my Discord that will be put up on YouTube. With more details, I'll tell you about it in a second. I also would like to go through the different tiers that I will be covering in my tier list. And I would also like to talk about how I'm ranking the Warframes, and I also have a bit of a disclaimer upon how you should receive this video in pre-response to a certain type of comments I may or may not get. There will be timestamps below in the description to both individual sections of this introduction and also to each specific Warframe, so do jump ahead, feel free to, that's totally cool. Though, do be aware, if you jump ahead to a Warframe, don't understand why I'm ranking a Warframe a certain way, because you skipped over the beginning, don't make a comment over it, because it's very easy to see when someone makes a comment without actually watching the video. So don't be that person. Feel free to disagree with me in the comment section. I would love to hear your opinions. I would love to see why you think I'm wrong or whatever. Totally open Discord. I'm happy to have that. But if you're just going to disagree with me without actually engaging with my reasons, it's very obvious when people do that. So, a fair warning. Anyway, so yes, first off, this community tier list thingamabobbie. So in my Discord, what I'm going to do is I haven't really thought about how we're going to set it up completely. So more information will be coming ahead in the Discord below for when this happens. So do check out the Discord and join the Discord if you're interested in participating in this. But basically what the idea is, we're all going to hop in voice chat and VC in the Discord, and we're just going to go through the tier list, and it's going to be kind of a majority rule situation. So everyone will have a say of like what tier they think a Warframe should be in. A few people might be asked to explain their reasonings for putting a Warframe in a certain tier. And if you guys say, if there's enough people to say the Warframe will be put in that tier, you'll get, even if I disagree with it, that's where the Warframe will be. So say if I think a Warframe should be in A tier, and the majority says it should be C tier, for example, then it goes in C tier. So that's, I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be entertaining to do. Going to have good chats to anyone. Everyone is welcome to join. And it'll be interesting to see how that tier list, because that tier list will be going up on my YouTube as well, the whole conversation. So do be aware, if you choose to participate in this, your voice will be on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. It'll be interesting to see how that tier list actually differs from this one. Anyway, moving on to how my tier list is structured and how I'm doing it the way I am. So you need to know what are my criteria for ranking these Warframes and how I will be critiquing them. So first of all, I will be critiquing their base kits, including augments. I would not be considering helmets, as I'm ranking the actual Warframe themselves, not how they do with helmet abilities. Secondly, I will be ranking them on 3 criteria. Number 1, how powerful they are. This is going to be the biggest consideration with how I rank them, and how powerful they are can mean a lot of different things. It can go from basic, just straight up raw damage output. Do they do a lot of damage? But it can also mean other stuff, like how much survivability do they have, how good are they at support, stuff like that. So like how good are they just generally, basically, right? The next one will be how versatile are they? Can I make a lot of different builds with them? Are they kind of one note and don't really offer that much? And the last one will be how well designed is the Warframe? Basically, it's going to be looking at how this ability synergize with themselves. If they have a passive that doesn't really make sense of the rest of the kit, that's going to be a mark against them, or something like that, right? So those are the different ways we are critiquing the Warframes. Now we should talk about what each of my ranks mean, starting from bottom up. So haven't played enough is quite simple. I don't feel comfortable with ranking Warframes that I am not the most confident with, because I find that disingenuous. So if it's a Warframe shows up that I am not the most comfortable with, I'm not going to rank it, because again, I find that disingenuous, so it's going to be put in the haven't played enough. There are only a handful of Warframes that go in this list, and if you watch my last year's tier list, there are actually less Warframes than last year, because I've played more Warframes now. But there's still a few that are going to go in this list. Again, I don't want to just spout nonsense out my ass. There's actually reasons for why I'm ranking these Warframes. Trash is, well, they're trash. They have pretty much no redeeming qualities and kind of fall short in all 3 of the categories that I am critiquing them on. D tier is where bad Warframes go. These aren't terrible, like trash is, but they are still definitely below the average in terms of quality, and that's where they go in D tier. C tier is the average. If I'm putting a Warframe in C tier, they're not bad, they're not good, they're just there. They do what they do, not necessarily in a very exceptional way, but they do it, right? B tier are good Warframes, your solid pick Warframes. They aren't necessarily special in any way, and definitely get overshadowed by some of the more powerful Warframes, but they are good, solid picks, and you know that you can rely on them. A tier Warframes are Warframes that aren't just good, but take it that extra step. They're they shine, they're exceptional. You can use the word great to describe them. Not just good, but they're great. There's a lot to love of their kits, but maybe they might have one or two things that make them fall short from the S tier category. And S tier is a Warframe that hits the highest possible ranking in all three of my categories. So for Warframe to be considered S tier on this tier list, they need to be powerful, they need to be versatile, and they need to be well designed. Broken is Warframes that are just so stupid that they are beyond broken. And there's only a few Warframes that should go in this list, and they're Warframes that are just broken. There's no other better way to explain them. And when we get to one of them, one of the Warframes on this list, I will further explain why I added the broken tier to this tier list. Now lastly, a disclaimer. I want to make this clear. Every Warframe in the game, including the worst Warframe, is more than capable of doing every content in this game, including level cap. Even EDR, Necrocells, EDA, sorry, not EDR. EDA, Necrocells, Archon Hunt, Basic Steel Path. Every Warframe can do any of this. Saying the Warframe is bad doesn't mean you should stop playing the Warframe. In fact, if you enjoy a bad Warframe, that's totally cool. You should play that Warframe. This game is meant to be enjoyed. It's a game after all. The purpose of it is meant to be enjoyed. And if you enjoy a certain Warframe, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Play that Warframe. The point of this tier list is not to make you feel bad because you play potentially a bad Warframe. The point is to just have a fun conversation because I enjoy talking about Warframes like this, and you obviously enjoy watching them because if you didn't, why else would you be watching this video? And also, because I will be going through every single Warframe in the game with at least somewhat detail, albeit brief, newer players, I should say, will be able to get a understanding of at least every Warframe in the game. And although it won't be super detailed, they may be able to use this video to base a decision on what Warframe they might want to pick up next. Whether it be a bad Warframe because they liked the sound of their kit as I explained it, or it's a good Warframe because they know it's good because I ranked it high. And again, I would like to also make it clear I am ranking these Warframes as objectively as possible. There are numbers in this game. There's actually a lot of math in this game. You can rank Warframes based on those numbers that are hard evidence. They aren't subjective opinions. I will rank Warframes I like poorly, and I will rank Warframes I don't like badly. That I don't like well. I am trying to keep this as objective as possible. While there's probably going to be some bias in it, I am not ranking Warframes because I like them or because I don't like them. That's not the point of this tier list. So again, don't go into my comment section and be like, this Warframe should have been ranked higher because I like them. Again, I'm not against people disagreeing with me. If you disagree with me, please, I would love to have that discourse. But again, please take the time to understand my reasoning and come up with a appropriate counterpoint. Because if you just say, you're wrong because I like this Warframe, then it's not really an argument. Because again, just because you like this Warframe doesn't mean it's just because you like this Warframe and it's bad doesn't mean you should stop playing it. Play it as much as you want. And also, again, an argument such as I can take this Warframe into EDA or Necrocells or I can't die on base steel path is not an argument for a Warframe being good. That isn't a Warframe being good. Those kind of content is the standard. It's the base standard. If a Warframe can't do that base standard, then they really don't even count as a Warframe. Like I said, every Warframe in the game can do every single piece of content all the way into level cap. So if your argument to me is saying I have no problem doing this Warframe in base steel path, that's not really much of an argument. Additionally, it is important to understand that 95% of the power scaling in this game comes from mods, and this is for both Warframes and weapons, not the actual gear you're using. You can make a bad Warframe great with good mods. You can make a great Warframe bad with bad mods. That is the simple truth of it. Anyway, with all of that out of way, let's finally get into this video. It's already been 11 minutes after all. Oh, it's probably going to be edited down, so it's not that long in post though. Anyway, starting off with Ashe. So Ashe, what is he about? Well, Ashe is a popular Warframe when it comes to endurance because, quite frankly, he goes invisible. There isn't really much more to it. However, Ashe doesn't necessarily have a lot in his kit. His first ability doesn't really necessarily offer much, except if you're using its augment, which can be used to armor strip enemies, which can definitely be useful, especially in endurance runs like disruption missions. His second ability is his main ability. It's the invisibility, and with the augment, it gives you the crit chance buff. Third ability does really do nothing. It just teleports you. And the fourth ability, which I've helmethed off, also is a bit too finicky. It's like kind of a nuking ability, but it's a bit finicky for any real good KPM. So Ashe definitely underperforms compared to a lot of current Warframes in this game. But that doesn't mean Ashe is bad or even close to being bad, because first of all, invisibility is really powerful. And with the right setup, Ashe can be really, really strong. And now, I know you're probably thinking, I just used Glaive. I'm saying Ashe is strong because I used Glaive. But Ashe benefits from the new Arcane, which gives the final damage buff when he's invisible. Ashe benefits from the crit chance buff that he gets from his augment when he's invisible. Ashe benefits from the stealth multiplier that melees get when a Warframe is invisible. And Ashe benefits from the extra slash damage that he gets from his passive. Like, Ashe makes this weapon even more powerful than it already is. And yeah, Glaive is just cracked. I mean, it's Glaive. But Ashe makes it better. So yes, there is a lot to love about Ashe, and by no means is he the best Warframe, or probably even close to the best Warframe, but he is definitely still pretty good. So I'm going to give him a B tier. A good, solid pick. He doesn't necessarily shine, but he is very, very good. Atlas. I won't bother going into a video explanation for Atlas in actual Warframe, but the thing you need to understand about Atlas is his passive and his first ability with their two augments. First ability does a stupid amount of damage with the right stat stick because it's a pseudo-exalted. The augment makes it so that the first ability, the augment form is passive, makes it so it does double damage. It doesn't cost any energy as long as you have 1,400 rubble, and is fast at cast. Meanwhile, the augment for his first ability will petrify enemies, which will not only create rubble, synergizing with your passive, but will also crowd control enemies. So, in summary, you have a Warframe that gets 1,500 extra armor plus passive healing from his passive, an ability that costs no energy and does double damage from the passive augment, an ability that crowd controls enemies and does a crap ton of damage, and that's just his passive and his first ability. The rest of his kit is a bit underwhelming, but his passive and his first ability are so damn good that it is so fun to play him, and he just stands out like crazy when it comes to his damage output, and like it's just easy, brain dead, because you're invincible when you cast your first ability as well. You get iframes as well, so he's running around invincible, costing no energy whatsoever, wiping out enemies with passive healing and 1,500 extra armor. Like he's great. So yes, he definitely deserves A tier, not S tier, because he's not really versatile and he doesn't have the best well-designed kit, because like I said, his other abilities aren't that amazing. Banshee is the most underrated Warframe in the game. Silence is the most underrated ability in the entire game. It stuns enemies and disables Eximus's abilities. And because the stun is an animation, if you had an ability that animation slows enemies, like, I don't know, Gloom, that's crowd control, baby. Not just crowd control. This turns off Eximus abilities. It turns off Acolyte abilities. It turns off Lich and Sisters of Parvos abilities. Like, Banshee's crowd control is phenomenal. Then you have Soma. Soma is a fantastic damage buff that is multiplicative with other damage buffs, and it is multiplicative with itself, because it can stack on itself, but only twice. Like, it's insane how powerful Soma is. Her fourth ability is damn right terrible, without a doubt. But then her first ability is also great. It has a 70% armor strip, though not permanent, with the augment. That is such a high armor strip compared to all the armor strips in the game. And great if you're doing Disruption or Cascade, any mission where you have some sort of priority target that you want to armor strip for. Amazing crowd control, amazing damage buff, and you have the armor strip as well. It would be an injustice to give her anything but A tier. Baruuk. Okay. All things admitted, I haven't played Baruuk that much, but I do think I know enough about his kit to give a somewhat accurate ranking on him. So if I do have a ranking on him that's just terrible and disgusting, I do apologize. And feel free to say that in the comments. My issue with Baruuk will become more clear when I talk about Valkyr, which might be funny to say, but again, you'll understand when I talk about Valkyr. But the major flaw with Baruuk these days is simply just that Exalteds in themselves, especially melee Exalteds, aren't that good these days. They've just been heavily power crept. And Baruuk's main kit is basically based around his melee Exalted. His melee Exalted can be quite finicky when building combo. Yes, it is very, very powerful with his augment for his 4th ability. He has a crap ton of damage reduction. But like you also have to maintain the resilience with his abilities. Like there's a lot to like kind of balance with him. Yes, you do crazy damage. Yes, you have crazy damage reduction. But you have to constantly be balancing his abilities with his resilience with his abilities. It's hard to build combo with his 4th ability. And like I said, Exalted, not him specifically, while he does have probably one of the most powerful melee Exalteds in the game, melee Exalteds in general just aren't that good these days. So yeah, I'm not giving him an A tier. He wasn't going to be S tier anyway because he's not versatile. I'm not giving him an A tier. I'm giving him a B tier because while there's a lot to love about him, I think he does get underplayed a bit by the fact that melee Exalteds just aren't actually that good anymore, and also points that I will make when I get to Valkyrie. Caliban. Caliban recently got his rework, and he is a significantly better Warframe. Caliban, however, was honestly not that bad, at least not as bad as people think he is, because his 4th ability is one of the best defense strips in the entire game, both now and before his rework. But Caliban, there's a lot to love of his kit now. You have the damage vulnerability, the armor strip, which is pretty much the same as what it was before. His 3rd ability is significantly better. You have the energy regen, the shield regen. There's a lot to him. However, and also the status chance from the Tau status effect. I still think, however, Caliban has a long way to go. I think Caliban is in a much better spot than what he was before, and I would call it as a much better starting point. It's important to remember that Caliban has no augments. He is the oldest Warframe yet to have an augment, in fact. So I think that once we start seeing augments for him, he's going to be a lot better than what he is currently, but I still hesitate to rank him too high because while he has a much better starting point than what he had before, I still think he has a long way to go in terms of augments. I don't think he's worthy of a C tier, which is where I would have put him before. I do think I'm going to put him A and B tier because, quite frankly, there is a lot of cool stuff that you can do with him now that you couldn't do before, and overall he is a lot better. So I think he definitely at least hits above the average mark for me. Chroma. I'll start with the positives. Chroma's 4th ability gives you a double credit drop, which makes Chroma the meta for Profit Taker credit farm. Can't deny that. However, it's important to note that he is not the meta for Profit Taker speed farms, meaning he's not the best at Profit Taker in general. We just use him for Profit Taker because of the credit drop. Additionally, his holster amp ability from his Toxic Elemental Ward, as well as his damage buff from Vex Armor, is actually multiplicative with Exodia Contagion. This means that on Exodia Contagion setups, Chroma is stupidly powerful, like ridiculously powerful. But that is literally the only nice things I have to say about him. His 1st ability does nothing. His 2nd ability has that niche use case of his Exodia Contagion, and it has a few other niche use cases, but meh. His 3rd ability's armor buff is fantastic, but the base damage buff is, well, exactly that. It's just a base damage buff, which just really isn't that great compared to all the damage buffs in the game, so it isn't really saying much. And again, outside of Profit Taker, outside of credit farming, his 4th ability is also useless. Not a lot going for him, but Exodia Contagion and also PT I think is enough of an argument to get him into D tier. I will say this, now that we're on this topic, I forgot to mention this. Since Inaros and Hydroid have now been reworked, Warframes are a lot better than what they used to be, just in general. The bar is a lot higher, meaning but previously we were able to compare a Warframe to the old Inaros and the old Hydroid and say to ourselves, well, they're not that bad. Now what I would consider to be the worst Warframe is a lot better than Inaros and Hydroid were. And one of the Warframes I would say, well, they're not that bad, referring to Inaros and Hydroid. But now it's the worst. So the bar between the best Warframes and the worst Warframes is shorter, meaning Warframes will be judged more harshly in this video than they were in my last video, because there's less of a gap between them and the worst Warframe. And with that in mind, I am actually going to move Chroma back down to trash tier because, yeah, like, yes, he does have that niche use cases, but like I said, there is less of a bar between him and the worst Warframe now because, like, yes, niche. Okay, no, I'll give him D tier because he is meta for Profit Taker Credit Farm. The sole fact that I can use the word meta to describe him in any aspect, I think gives him at least enough of an argument to be put in D tier. Sorry, that was very difficult. Cintrine. Passive healing from her passive. And Orb Generation, which synergizes with her healing, and also Orb Generation is just great from her first. Damage reduction from her entire squad from her second. Status duration buff for weapons and abilities. Status chance buff for weapons. Priming enemies, additional damage instances from her third. Crit chance buff, crowd control, and sometimes, depending on the weapon you're using, a crit damage buff from her fourth ability. She's fantastic. She's a great Warframe. She's versatile. You can do a lot with her kit. The kit is very well designed. It synergizes very well with herself. She's incredibly powerful. While a lot of her builds probably look somewhat similar to each other because a lot of her builds will likely use a lot of her abilities in the same ways, just because her abilities do so much, her builds can do entirely different things and like set out to be different objectives. Like I know of an ability DPS build for Cintrine, for example, even though you'd probably want to go for weapons platform. You could do a more selfish weapon platform build. You can do an entirely support focused build. There's a lot to love about Cintrine. She does a lot. She's great. Sato 9, the new Warframe. Sato 9 is a fantastic addition to the game. Fantastic. He's very powerful. He does a lot of damage. His Exalted Sniper is very powerful. Check out my video if you're interested. And I did actually decide to go into the Simulacrum to show off Sato 9's power. Just to show, these are level, what, 180 heavy gunners, right? They are tanky enemies, much more tanky than normal enemies are. You don't really have the ability to just kill them without much effort. Normally in the Simulacrum, to kill a stack of heavy gunners like this, you really want to build up your damage setup. Like you would do, we went aggressive. You would have to build up your damage setup first before you can start really doing damage against the enemies. But Sato 9 just doesn't care about that because he can just start wiping out these enemies with just his Exalted and like not give a crap because he's just ridiculous. Like I just cast my abilities and he just wipes out these enemies and he doesn't care. Like he just does a stupid amount of damage. The only drawback that you can possibly say that he has is that you have to aim for headshots when using a sniper. And while you can make weapon platform builds that don't use the sniper, he still kind of prioritizes like actual aiming. You can definitely ignore that, but he won't be nearly as effective as what he would be otherwise. But like he is just stupidly powerful. He's versatile, does a lot of damage, and he's quite well designed. Like his kit is really fun. He's almost worthy of an S tier. The only reason why I say he's not going to be S tier is because of what I said before. Like he does kind of, to be as good as he can be, he does kind of require you to aim, regardless of if you're using his Exalted or not. And while a lot of people might be like, skill issue, this is Warframe. Like, guys, we don't play Warframe to aim. We play Warframe to turn our brains off, close our eyes, walk into a room, and suddenly everything is dead. Like, if you think you need to aim while playing this game, you must be playing a different game. And, like, it's totally cool. I had a lot of fun playing Sato 9, but I know a lot of people probably will have issues with him because of his aiming focus, and will probably write him off. And when there are Warframes that exist in the game that do even more DPS than he does without needing to aim, yeah, I do think that's enough of an argument to drop him from S tier. But he's still an amazing, amazing Warframe. Dagath. Remember what I said about, like, you have to kind of set up your damage rotation first? Yeah. Dagath is an extremely powerful Warframe. She does a lot of damage with her third augment attached with her fourth ability, which will allow her to self-armor strip. She's invincible. Yeah, you have to put up with the cooldown. But there is a lot to love there. I do have a few issues with her. And also, she doesn't have to be a weapon platform. She doesn't have to be an ability DPS Warframe. She can be a weapon platform build Warframe, giving her versatility as well. Powerful and versatility. However, I do find her weapon platform setups to be a bit too spammy, which is kind of the opposite of what you want from a weapon platform setup, because they're not meant to be spammy. And also, I think her kit isn't designed very well. She has very little shields, she has a lot of health, she has a health gate, but she has no way of healing herself, and she also doesn't have a lot of armor. she's clearly set up to be a health-based tanky Warframe, except she's not. That doesn't really make sense to me. And like I said, while you can make weapon platforms with her, the weapon platform setups she uses are quite spammy, which is not what you want from a weapon platform setup. So I think her design issues definitely bump her out of even being considered for S tier. Some people might be like, oh, but he got nerfed. Yeah, the reason he's not in Broken is because he got nerfed. Like, Dante is stupid. Like, he's just stupid. He does a stupid amount of damage, and he literally cannot be killed. Like, it is literally impossible for him to die. As long as you have Triumph activated and you keep getting kills, Triumph gives you an overguard regen that has no delay when you kill an enemy. And with an overguard regen with no delay, you just continuously build up that overguard, even when it gets down. And because it has an overguard gate, even if by the time you get shot again and only have one overguard, any excess damage that would have gone to your shields and health would have just been negated. Meaning, it doesn't matter how much damage you actually take, as long as you keep regenerating overguard, which you will because you have no delay on your overguard regen, it is literally impossible for you to die. He cannot die. And on top of that, he is a good weapons platform. He offers a lot of in the way of weapon platform synergy. And also he is an absolutely insane nuke even after his nerfs. Ember. Ember received her light rework. In wake of the other light reworks we received this year, I'm honestly more inclined to refer to what Ember got as more of a buff or a stat tweak. But she still kind of suffers from a fundamental flaw, I think, which is just like she doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, a lot of people play her as a weapon platform because her fourth ability, which is meant to be her nuke ability, doesn't do that much damage even after the armor changes. And that is a testament to how bad her fourth ability can underperform because she's not a weapon platform Warframe. The only weapon platform she offers is her first ability augment gives her heat. And that's it. Like, compare that to Saren or Dante or Cintrine or Cyto 9 or even Banshee. Like, she's not a good weapon platform. She only offers heat damage. And the only reason why you would play her as a weapon platform is because you were underwhelmed by her nuking ability. And a lot of people do that because they're underwhelmed by her nuking ability, which I think speaks for it enough. In the past, I would have definitely put Ember in B tier. But like I said, I am judging Warframes more harshly this time around. And while she's definitely better than what she was before, because the energy economy was greatly improved, I do think she only really considers to be in the average tier. By no means is she a bad Warframe. She's a perfectly fine Warframe, but I just struggle to call her a good Warframe either, so I am going to put her in C tier. Equinox. Well, I went on a big whole rant about my opinion on Equinox in my Equinox video, which I uploaded earlier this year. So if you're interested, you can check that out. But basically, I kind of explained how I'm disappointed with her kit because I feel like she has a lot of potential, more so than most other Warframes. And I think the idea of having two forms is really cool. But unfortunately, her abilities have no synergy whatsoever between her two forms, except for the fourth augment, which is too much effort to use. You may as well not use it. At the end of the day, with Equinox, you either want to build for her dark mode or her light mode. She is an incredible nuke. This is undeniable. But like, that's all she has. Like, yeah, you can make a build for a dark mode, but it's not that good compared to other setups. I mean, it's really more just like doing it for the sake of doing it. And like, the nuking is good, but like, her first and her second are basically useless. Her third is definitely useful, but it is more niche, kind of. I mean, if you're using a main nuke build, depending on what your modded strength is, your third ability is actually useless. Meaning your third ability is only useful in night form. And her best night form build is significantly worse than her main nuke build. Like, again, I wanted to put her in B tier when I was originally thinking about ranking her, but I do have to rank these Warframes more harshly than I was before, so I am only going to give her C tier. Escal is boring. Compared to the other two starting Warframes, Escal is boring. A lot of people can agree with this. When it comes to a poster boy, he's kind of underwhelming. There's not necessarily a lot to go with him. You can definitely see his age. But when you get into him more, he is surprisingly versatile. Like, extremely versatile. One of the most in the game, actually. And he has a lot of things to love about his kit. The augment for his third ability gives him a final damage buff to melees. That alone makes him one of the best melee Warframes in the game. You can have a build for his Pseudo Exalted, you can have a build for his normal Exalted, because he's the only Warframe that has both. You can make a nuke build with finisher damage and mark for death. There's a lot he can do. And for that reason alone, I am going to put him B tier, because a lot of people would agree he isn't very exciting. He can be quite powerful, and he has a lot of different builds, but even within his builds, he still does get overshined and outperformed by a lot of other Warframes. So he's definitely only B tier worthy. Frost is one of my favorite Warframes, so naturally I'm going to put him in S tier. I'm kidding. The thing about Frost is, wow, I really love playing him, and wow, his light rework made him such a better Warframe than what he was before. At the end of the day, he still does suffer from a few issues. His kit isn't necessarily as refined as it could be. He is somewhat versatile. You can make damage setup, ability DPS setups with him, with Thermal Sunder mainly. But he's really just used for weapon platform setups, which kind of gets rid of his versatility. And like I said, his kit isn't the best designed in the game. The fact that he's a Warframe with Overguard and has a lot more shields than health, but gets armor from his passive, is kind of telling. While his passive does synergize with his fourth ability Augment and also his third ability, it's still kind of like, okay. And his first and his second, while better than what they were before, are still just kind of like, okay. He is extremely powerful when it comes to raw damage output. He is a fantastic weapon platform, and he can hit like an absolute truck. But he has still those one or two issues that still kind of degrade him. So I put him in B tier last time. I'm putting him in B tier again. Gara. Gara is the Warframe where the broken tier exists. Why? Because I don't think Gara should be put in the same tier as some of the Warframes that will be put in S tier. Gara just doesn't seem quite as powerful, mainly as Warframes like Saren. But I was struggling to come up with a reason why Gara couldn't be in S tier. And then I realized I should just put her in S tier. Why? Because she is powerful. Even if she's not Saren powerful, she is powerful. She's very powerful. She's incredible versatile. You can do a lot of her build. Kit. Pseudo Exalted. Nuking. Her second ability DPS. She has great synergy. Like the Nuking with the way it works with the Augment and the first ability. Second synergy. Blah, 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 blah. Her Helminth ability. Her third ability with the energy. Like, her kit is well designed. Her passive is phenomenal. She's a fantastic passive. She is a very powerful Warframe. Well designed, very versatile. I literally could not come up with a reason to not put her in S tier. Like, I tried to think of a reason. So, the broken tier exists because of her, pretty much. And I want to be clear. I was thinking that Gara would be an A tier. And by no means did I think that Gara was a bad Warframe. I just didn't think she was on the same tier as Saren, which is why she's not. Broken. Anyway, Garuda. Garuda is also very powerful, pretty much almost as powerful as Gara. Her issue is, however, she is less versatile. You can definitely come up with a few different build ideas for Garuda, but there's really just kind of one reason why people play Garuda, and it's for Exalted Talons. And like any ability DPS build or like new build that you can make of her, because they definitely do exist, are kind of like meh. She's pretty well designed. Her passive is very powerful. Honestly, I think she's extremely close to hitting the S tier mark. I just think she's just misses it. And I also think another reason why she shouldn't really deserve the S tier mark is because she's the only Warframe in the game where her prime variant is actually better than her base variant. And that's because her exalted weapon gets a buff. It's the only exalted weapon in the game that is better when it's prime version, and it is actually quite a pretty substantial buff as well. So her prime version is actually better than her normal version, so I think there's also kind of a mark against her. So, Grendel. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me with actually... I don't think anyone is going to disagree with me with that decision. The only reason why I would say he isn't broken and is instead S tier is because he's so well designed that he just works seamlessly. to the point that I feel like when you're playing him, you don't realize how busted his abilities are. But when you actually read into them, they are busted. Sorry, I kind of overblew my mic just then. His Thermal Sunder, which is nerfed in the helmet, by the way, so this is his Thermal Sunder, is actually insane. Like, actually reading about all the different things it does, both cold and heat sunder, is insane. And, like, his shield regen, the shield reduction delay, his second ability giving the 100% reduction to the, like, 6 most common damage types that enemies do. His fourth ability gives a bloody casting speed buff. Like, he doesn't even need a cast. The only ability that needs a casting speed buff is his fourth ability, which is funnily the only ability that can't be affected by the casting speed buff. Fire rate, attack speed, a melee damage buff, like movement, grouping, crown control, elemental damage, weapon damage. He literally does everything. Like, the only thing the bro can't do is buff crits, buff status, and go invisible. It's the only thing he can't do. I mean, unless you argue that the cold status effects that he applies buffs crits because of the crit damage buff you get from the cold status effect. In which case, he does buff crits. Meaning he just doesn't buff status and doesn't go invisible. That's it. He does everything else. Like, he is insane. He does so much. And I will be honest, he is my favorite Warframe, so I'm a little bit biased. But he is ridiculously powerful. He is well known and commonly considered to be the best designed Warframe in the game, and has even been often referred to as the king of Warframe. Yes, and obviously he's extremely versatile. Whether you're doing a weapon platform build, an ability DPS build, there's so much to love about him. Grendel. I am going to put Grendel here. I honestly think I probably do know enough about Grendel to rank. Actually, no, I do know enough about Grendel to rank. Let me sum it up by saying this. So you know Nourish? You know everything that Nourish does? So add healing to that, add status cleansing, and add status immunity, and then you get Grendel's version of Nourish. Yeah. And if you're unaware about his most recent augment he got and how much damage that thing can do, yeah. And the reason why I wouldn't put him in S tier is because I think he is kind of not the most versatile. I mean, you can, he's definitely versatile. 100% he's versatile. But, like, you can definitely put him in the weapon platform builds. You can make ability DPS builds, especially with his fourth augment. And there's, like, he's very powerful. Like, there's lots of love about him. He has 2 armor strips. Well designed after his rework that he got back in 2022. But yeah, I do think he does just kind of miss the mark in terms of S tier though. That might be my haven't played him enough that is saying that. Maybe if I got my hands on him, I might have a different story. But yeah, it is what it is. She does a lot of damage. That's about it, really. Her kit isn't the best designed, mainly because her first and her second are kinda not good. Her second is actually a pretty good grouping ability. It has the longest range out of any grouping ability in the helmet, making it technically the best grouping ability in the helmet. But on her, it's not that good. You wouldn't really need it. Her third and her fourth are broken, no doubt about it. Like, proper broken. But she's not the most versatile. Yeah, you can make weapon platform builds with her. You get a crit chance buff from your weapons from a third ability. But that's just a crit chance buff. There are Warframes that give crit chance / crit damage and a bunch of different buffs, right? Like, she's not the best weapon from the game. And most people that play her they're playing her for her fourth with the third augment. Like, let's be real. So yeah, not the best design because there are abilities that are kind of falling flat compared to some of her other abilities, and she isn't super versatile. So I am giving her an A tier. Very well designed. His kit works very well with itself. He has a lot of buffs in there. You get the shield regen, the crowd control, the fire rate buff, reload speed buff, health on like life steal on hits. You have the energy economy, the crit chance buff, the invincibility period. There's a lot. Harrow is honestly, I would argue, one of the best weapon platforms in the game. Like, in terms of raw damage output, yeah, he gets beat by other weapon platforms, but like, I feel like he offers the most different types of buffs to weapon platforms. Like, there's a lot he offers in terms of your kit, but he's meant to be a support Warframe in quotation marks. Except he's extremely kill hungry because of the way his kit works. Because most people don't play with him ever in public matches or even squad matches, and instead they choose to play him solo. And while he's very powerful solo, that limits his usability. So he's only really a solo frame. And I also wouldn't necessarily say he's the most versatile. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I'll put Thermal Sunder on him and do the whole Thermal Sunder Harrow nuke thing. And like, yeah, that's cool on base Steel Path, but you wouldn't be doing, base Star Chart, but you wouldn't be doing that in Steel Path. Thermal Sunder outside of Gauss doesn't do enough damage for it. So yeah, he really is kind of a one-note weapon platform in that way. I love him. He's very fun to play, but I don't think he deserves S tier. Hildryn. Well, what do I have to say about Hildryn? It's always better to show than to say, don't you think? Hildryn is stupid now. Like, the new augment for her fourth ability and the quality of life improvements she's received while in her fourth ability, being able to cast Pillage and Helmet abilities in it, the better movability, they go a long way. And the augment is just so powerful. And, like, the amount of damage it does is ridiculous. However, and honestly, her augment build for her fourth ability is almost S tier worthy. Every other build she has is like B tier at best. Like every other build significantly falls flat. And before the changes she received recently and the augment she got, I would even go so far to call her the definition of mediocre. Now she has one build that shines a lot, like really above most other Warframes, but her other setups are just kinda meh. And Haven is still not that great of an ability. And Pillage is still kind of a workaround. I know Pillage is probably what I would call the most overrated helmet because it's like people think it's a lot better than it is. Yeah, it's pretty good, but like you need 400% crit chance to fully strip at the thing. It works best with less duration because of the way its shield regen works. If you're relying on it for survivability, like it has a bit of a niche use case because of its downsides. Like yeah, she's really powerful, but there's also a few things to kind of nitpick on her. But again, I think her absurd level of power is enough to get it into A tier. Hydroid, like I said, it's always better to show than to tell. Oh, yeah. Every single one of his ability armor strips thanks to his passive. Tempest Barrage is incredibly powerful when it comes to DPS. He has the extra loot drops. He can be a weapon platform with his third ability, which also buffs his ability damage as well. He can group with a second. He gets that status immunity from a second, and status cleansing. Like, he has so much. Like, he is so powerful. A lot of damage, both for weapon platform and ability DPS. Grouping, status and cleansing, extra loot. Like, yeah, well designed after his rework, and extremely powerful. Like, yeah, I think he deserves an S tier. Inaros. This is the divisive one. We just got Inaros' rework, and obviously, as we all know, Inaros would have been there before his rework. Where does he go after his rework? Well, don't get me wrong. Inaros is a significantly better Warframe than what he was before. But when you break it down, what does he do? Like, generally. He has survivability, and that's about it. Like, it's to the point where I want to play Inaros because I actually really like his kit, but I can't come up with a build idea for him that I like. And I have actually come up with a build idea since the update for Warframe 99, but I ask you this, please tell me in the comments, what builds do you have for Inaros? I made a DPS build with the second ability. I already have that on my channel. I did that when his rework came out. But besides that, what does he do? Like, yeah, you can have ability DPS with him, and yeah, he has good survivability. But it's also important that he still doesn't have a gate mechanic. He has one with an augment, but he's the only Warframe in the entire game that doesn't have a gating mechanic built in. Yes, he gets it from an augment, but even then, he's still the only Warframe in the entire game whose gating mechanic has a cooldown. Nidus doesn't have a cooldown. It does if you're using the augment for the passive, but normally it doesn't. Why does he have a cooldown on his gating mechanic? Nidus doesn't, Overguard doesn't, shields don't, what's it called? Symbiosis technically doesn't, because it technically does, because it downs the companion, but you can reduce that with other mods, so like it itself doesn't have a cooldown, you know. Like these, why are we giving gating mechanics cooldowns? Why are we arbitrarily deciding that Inaros can get messed up because we hate Inaros? DE apparently hates Inaros and thinks he doesn't deserve a gating mechanic and needs a cooldown. Like, why? And he's not the only one. There are other issues, other Warframes with cooldowns on gating mechanics I'm going to also complain about. Why is this a thing? And like, yeah, I like his kit. I like the Sank of that. He's cool with he has a lot of armor strip capacity with two green shards. He has the status immunity. He has the extra survivability. He has the healing, the grouping. Like, yeah, there's stuff to love about him. He's lacking a lot in the way of damage, especially because he's probably most commonly played as a weapon platform. But the only real ability he has is his second ability with the augment for ability damage. And he offers nothing in terms of weapon platform. Like, literally nothing. Like, what do you do with a weapon platform in Inaros? Oh, I put Raw on him. Yeah, you put Raw on him. Like, Raw is the only thing that's buffing your damage out there. Inaros is just survivability, right? And he has a cooldown on his gating mechanic. I'm saying a lot of mean things about Inaros. And it might be wondering, I put him in C tier. And I believe in that. I think he deserves C tier. I don't think he deserves... He's better than Chroma. That's for damn sure. But, like, good, like, my guys, like, he's still really not that great. And the funny thing is, we've gotten so many reworks and light reworks that I wouldn't be surprised within the next 2-3 years, Inaros is back to being the worst Warframe in the game, because every other Warframe below him has just been given buffs. Like, there's not that many Warframes below him in terms of being worse than him, which is just sad. Like, yes, he is significantly better than what he was before, but there's still not a lot going for him. Ivara. So, on my video about Sato 9, I got a comment saying that Sato 9 has just reworked Ivara, changed my mind. I honestly agree. Because Sato 9 is like exalted weapon that is a primary. The only other primary exalted besides Ivara is Artemis bow. He has abilities that are set up to do extra damage against headshots. Ivara's bow has an augment that makes it explode on headshots, and her third ability also gives you headshot damage. Like extra headshot damage. She's also like the headshot invisible frame, just like Sato 9 is. So yeah, they are kind of the same Warframe, and Sato 9 is better than her. But like, yeah, she's still powerful. Like, yeah, you can get that headshot setup going with the headshot damage she gets from her third ability. And her fourth ability, wow, nowhere near as powerful as Sato 9's exalted, can be good with its augment. And yeah, she gets the crit chance buff from the augment from his first ability, but like, you need to be on dash Y to do that. No one wants to be on dash Y. So yeah, like she does kind of fall fat a bit, especially compared to Sato 9. I do think she was already kind of being power crept, and Sato 9 kind of just power crept her more, to be honest. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that one. The only way I can see someone disagreeing with me putting Jade in S tier is because they think she should be in Broken. My reasoning for not putting her in Broken are two things. First of all, I'll talk about Hildryn in a second. Her most powerful setup is obviously her setup using her fourth ability's Alt Fire. The issues with this is her Alt Fire is bugged. DE have confirmed this is a bug, and they said they were going to fix it, which is... It's been half a year, and it's not, but okay. Basically, the issue is that it doesn't scale with everything. It doesn't scale with base damage, meaning it doesn't scale with her own second ability. It doesn't scale with other stuff. Like, you need to mod it in a very weird way, and it's honestly kind of finicky to use. And when you have Hildryn, that is honestly very similar in terms of function, that is out there just doing way more damage, or not necessarily way more damage, but is doing also a stupid amount of damage and much easier. It's kind of like, do you want to play the more convoluted Jade, or you want to play the easy Hildryn? But at the same time, though, Jade has the healing. She has the shield regen. She has the armor strip. She has the base damage buff that doesn't work on her alt fire of her fourth ability. And like you can do other setups. You can use her support. You can use her as a weapon platform that doesn't use her exalted, or use the primary fire for exalted. Like yeah, Jade can do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of versatility with her. Her kit is pretty well designed, if albeit a bit bloated. But yeah, like Hildryn's existence does kind of be like, well, she's not broken because Hildryn is kind of just better at being the attack helicopter Warframe, if you know what I mean. Khora. Khora is ridiculously powerful. Her first ability is the best pseudo exalted in the game. By a lot. It does a lot of damage. And she's very good when it comes to getting extra loot because of the augment from her fourth ability, and she has a second companion. She's the only Warframe with two companions, and that offers a lot of utility and a lot of fun to add extra fun to a kit. This means she's the only Warframe that can have a companion in the circuit. But have you ever seen anyone ever play Khora without using her first ability? Well designed, very powerful. She's not versatile in any way. And that is the only reason why she's not being put in S tier. Oh. Koumei. Okay. I was actually doing a tier list for fun with my friends before I started this video. And we had a long discussion on Koumei. And we came to a pretty good consensus. At least two of us, including me, actually really like her. We think she's fun to play. Visually, I think Koumei is really I think her abilities are really pretty. And what I'm about to say about her, do note that the randomness of abilities are not even being considered in it. The randomness of abilities do not bug me. I understand her abilities are random, that's fine. That alone will of course mean it so she was never going to be an S tier, a super top tier Warframe, because you can't mod for random. Like, that's fine. But that's totally fine. Not every Warframe needs to be the best in the game. And the randomness is a cool feature. Like, it's cool to have, it's fun to play around with. The issue I have with Koumei is she does nothing except prime enemies. And to be clear, I like her first ability. I like her fourth ability. I think they're both good abilities. I just think when put on a Warframe where that's literally all they do, there's a lot less to be desired. She has a pseudo Mesmer skin that's worse in every single way, and her second ability is cool, but outside of endurance, it's useless because you're not going to have enough time to build on it to the point where it actually makes some use, because you're more than likely going to get a decree that does literally nothing for your build. So the second degree ability is only good in endurance. And while it's definitely very cool and very fun and definitely very valuable even for endurance, because it means that your endurance setups can be different each time, a lot of people don't do endurance. And outside of endurance, once again, all she is Warframe with a bad healing ability and priming. Like her passive primes, her first primes, her fourth primes. Cintrine primes enemies, gives you a crit damage buff, crit chance buff, status duration buff, status chance buff, damage reduction, healing, and orb generation. Yeah. Few Warframes will be able to outperform Kullervo with DPS. He's versatile. He has the weapon platform set up. His third ability is arguably the best ability in the game. It makes snipers good. It makes heavy attack builds good. His fourth ability can be used for nuking setups. Why is he's well designed? Why isn't he an S tier? Because if you were to take him to endurance, while not every Warframe player does this, he's extremely dependent on his second ability for the Overguard Gate mechanic. To the point where you basically need to be constantly casting his second every time you can. It's like you need to be very trigger happy with the second ability to survive into high levels. And that is not a lot against him. I think he's very close to the S tier rank, but it is still enough to not be put into S tier. Lavos. Okay. The thing about Lavos is Valence Fusion is incredibly powerful. But you put Valence Fusion on him and suddenly he has one ability. Like, he just has Valence Fusion. None of his abilities do anything except select which element you want for Valence Fusion. And even for a nuke setup, because he can be quite a powerful nuke, The only real ability that's doing anything there is his fourth ability, and his third and his first are only there to reduce the cooldown on his fourth. And speaking of his cooldown, because of his cooldown, he has a pretty low KPM when it comes to ability for his nuke setup, making Valence Fusion the main way you want to play him. And like, Lavos has one of the best passive in the game, and like, Lavos with Harmony is ridiculous, because his passive also gives him status duration, scaling off duration, makes it ridiculous with Harmony, or Expedite Suffering. But he's still so, like, his abilities don't do much. Like, I feel like there needs to be a lot more substance to add to his kit. His abilities need to be changed so there's more going on for him, that his abilities do more stuff. So there's more of a reason to cast his abilities, except for every 60 seconds or so, just so you can refresh Valence Fusion. Like, yeah. Sorry, C tier. He's not bad, very powerful, capable of doing a lot of damage, but he's also not good for the reasons I just mentioned. Like, come on. I love Limbo. Limbo is one of my favorite Warframes. But, like, in fact, he used to be my favorite Warframe. But, like, he's just been nerfed over and over and over again. And we're at the point where his form of crowd control is kind of bad because of Eximus units. So one thing that he does, which is crowd control, is bad. Besides crowd control enemies, all he does is a situational damage buff, which is a base damage buff anyway with an augment, and also some mediocre energy regen, which you can just do better with, like, Energize, Death Cube, even Xeneric, honestly. Like, he has nothing. He genuinely has nothing. Like, sure, a damage buff. Okay. But, like, Chroma? And, like, that's the worst example I could think of. Like, there are so many better Warframes than Chroma that have a better damage buff. And that's, like, the point, right? Like, it's just, yeah. The only reason why he's not trash is because, number one, his invisibility, and number two, the newer augment for his first ability, the damage one, the one that lets you place on enemies, that then primes enemies, it's actually a very good priming ability. Which means more things about Koumei, because even Loki can prime enemies. Yeah, like the thing about Loki is that Wisp's second ability summons a decoy, Loki's first. It makes Wisp invisible, Loki's second. And it allows you to teleport to it, Loki's third ability. Yes, Wisp's second ability is more than half of Loki's entire kit. As for his fourth ability, Repo Audit. It's a hound mod. Guess what it does? It disarms enemies. Yes, a companion has radial disarm. Yeah. Mag. I'm not going to be liked for this one. Is she powerful? Powerful enough to be an S tier? Oh, 100%, without a doubt. Is her kit well designed? Is it well designed enough to be an S tier? Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Is she versatile? I challenge you to give me an example of a mag build that isn't just her second ability killing enemies. That's really the matter of it. Like, it hurts me to have to do this. But with the own criteria I set for myself, she doesn't hit the versatility mark to be put in S tier. She is more powerful than Gara, or even Hydroid, or even Cintrine, honestly. Like, she is more powerful than them, but those three all hit the top tiers of all three categories, while Mag doesn't have the versatility. So it feels bad to put her in A tier. It really does. But that is my reasoning, and my only reasoning for not putting her in A tier, because of the lack of versatility. Similar reasons, but also more to it. While she is honestly quite a good weapons platform, her second ability is actually a very good ability. She has a 95% damage reduction. Her fourth ability is, well, we all know what Mesa's fourth ability does. It's where you just aimbot. It's very powerful. Again, I challenge you to come up with an example of a build that doesn't use her fourth ability. Like, yeah, people do use Mesa and don't use her fourth ability, but are you really playing Mesa if you're not using her fourth ability? And also, her fourth ability doesn't scale the best. Like, yes, it does a lot of damage, and yes, it can go to level cap. It needs a lot of moving parts to make work. So I do think her power isn't quite at the level of S tier, and I also think her versatility isn't either. So yes, she only gets A tier. Mirage. First ability, Eclipse as a helmet sucks. Eclipse on Mirage gives the 200% final damage buff. Fantastic. First ability, also fantastic for weapon DPS. Second ability with augment nukes on low level enemies. Fourth ability nukes on higher level enemies. 2 nuking abilities, amazing weapon platform. Anyone that says, yeah, but she's a glass cannon, my guys, this is Warframe. Like, come on. It's like shield gating for one, and you can make any Warframe a tank with the right mod setup. She's S tier. She's just stupidly powerful. She's versatile, and she's well designed. Nekros. Very popular for loot farming, which is why the main reason why I'm putting him in A tier and not B tier, because of his popularity for loot farming. Terrify's pretty good. First ability is kind of Terrify's pretty good. Fourth ability is good, especially for the augment for the damage reduction. And obviously you have your loot farming, right? And you get self damage from your the third ability, from the damage. Self damage from the third ability with the augment as well, and that's easy Arcane Avenger right there. So yep, definitely a lot to like about him. Very good. He doesn't necessarily stand out too much, but he is extremely popular when it comes to loot farming. So I guess that in its way is kind of justification for himself to make him stand out. So yeah, A tier, I suppose. Neja should almost be broken because of how broken his fourth ability augment is. Even after its nerf. Like, it is stupidly broken. But one of my friends did make this argument. While one of Neja's ability setups, the one that uses his fourth augment, is broken, his other ones aren't that good. I think that balances him out to be around S tier. But there's a lot to love about him. Like, his first ability, easily his worst ability, gives status cleansing, status immunity if you stand in the fire, a movement speed buff. You have your fourth, which makes enemies weaker to damage, drops extra health and energy orbs. The damage redirection from his third ability, which you can give to allies with the augment. The fourth ability, which synergizes fantastically with the second ability, can make it do solid DPS, and with the augment is broken, just completely broken. Yeah, he's a very powerful Warframe. Great weapon platform, great nuker, very, very powerful. Nidus is being put in A tier for similar reasons as Harrow. The reality situation in Nidus is he is extremely good at surviving. He can even do some pretty solid ability DPS, and he also can be a weapon platform with the augment for his first ability. Like, there's a lot to go with the Nidus. He's versatile. His kit is probably the second best designed after Gauss. But he also needs to rely on the stack build-up, which can be a bit hard in public or squad play, making Nidus kind of more exclusive to solo play like Harrow. And for that reason, I don't think it deserves S tier. Before her rework, her light rework, no, she wouldn't have been put in S tier. But her light rework fixed so many issues she had. Like, her passive is fantastic. Her first ability is so much better now. Her second ability is actually capable of doing really good DPS. And her fourth ability is better than what it was before. And her fourth ability is fantastic. And she's versatile, weapon platform, ability DPS, like slow var, speed var. So much to love about Nova. She definitely deserves S tier. Nyx. Freshly reworked Nyx. A tier. She's really powerful now. She gets that crit chance buff really easily. She has immense amount of crowd control. Sorry, Limbo. And she has the very powerful armor strip of her second as well, which also gives her shields, overguard, and armor. Like, she is very powerful now. And her first is also really good as well. Did you know you can actually use her first to mind control acolytes? Yeah. Worst Warframe in the game. While he isn't nearly as bad as what Hydroid and Inaros used to be, he doesn't do anything that there is not a better way of doing. His first ability, radiation, crowd control. Nyx. Corvex, which we haven't got into yet. any weapon with high status chance modded for radiation. Like, Loki even. Like, second ability, status cleansing, sure. And radiation, crowd control again. Like, exact same things I just said before. Status cleansing, so many ways of doing this. Pillage, Neja, Rolling Guard, Titania. Like, there's so many ways of doing it, right? And those were all helmets, like, things that were offered by everyone, right? Helmet abilities and Rolling Guards and mod. Third ability, heals, works well for him, but survivability support has no place in this game. And that's because every Warframe, every individual player who plays this game, their builds are self-sufficient. By that I mean, any survivability they need, they get from themselves. And if they aren't self-sufficient, then in this day and age of the game, it's just a bad build, putting it honestly. So healing teammates isn't useful. His augment does give him a health gate that has a 90-second cooldown. Again, with these cooldowns, Nidus doesn't have a cooldown. Like shield gating, overguard gating, they don't have cooldowns. Martyr symbiosis, like again with the cooldown. Why? 90 seconds. And the fourth ability, sure, it armor strips enemies, but only if they're also inflicted by his second. Yeah, and I didn't forget about the armor buff his third gives, but again, only if the ally is on the second, and it's a 200 armor buff or something. Like, it's so low. He doesn't really offer much in the way. Like, he offers very mediocre support at best, and there are just so many better ways to do what he does now. Like, he's the definition of power crept, unfortunately. I don't think I need to explain that one. I don't think there's going to be any arguments like that. Oh, you want me to explain it? Sure. Let me get it up for you. Have I made my point yet? If you're unfamiliar with how Octavia's kit works, basically her first ability redirects the damage that enemies do to it back to them. Second ability makes the bull, the mallet, which is right here, which is the first ability, move around, and also crowd controls enemies, making enemies more likely to hit the mallet as it decreases its priority. Third ability gives you invisibility. Fourth ability increases the range of mallet. Like, yeah. She's almost as crazy. Actually, no, let me show you. She's almost as crazy as Octavia when it comes to just standing in one corner and letting your abilities score everything. The only difference is her abilities have a much shorter cooldown, so you need to be a bit more active on the casting the abilities again. They do so much damage, they're just insane. Her first ability gives her a increased of 2 seconds to herself and any other ally that picks it up. To shield gating as well as shield regen. This means at max she can have a 4.4 second shield gate, which is more than Hildryn's 3.5 seconds by a whole second. Her fourth ability gives you the armor shot for a second, does stupid damage. Dispensary is a fantastic utility ability. A lot of utility there. You don't have to use the setup like the one I just showed you. Like, you can do all the builds for her as well. Extremely well designed. Like, yeah, she's fantastic. Enemy is supposed to be damaging me. I hadn't noticed them. Oh, funny that. Oh, look, they're dead. Huh. Crazy. I mean, like, guys, like, Mesmer skin literally is an invincibility button. His first, yeah, well, like, yeah, you can have actually a lot of fun with his first. Right setup, Reeve one-shots enemies. You can even make Dance Macabre a scale pretty high these days. Like, yeah, Revenant is just cracked. He's insane. Rhino. Look, so Rhino has survivability, he has the damage, has versatility there. His fourth ability is mwah. His thirst ability is mwah. His passive is even more mwah. He's really just his second and his third. So he's not the best design. Not really any versatility there either. I do know of a low level nuke build for him, but like, yeah, there are other better versions of it. Mirage, for example. So yeah, really just like raw and iron skin. That's really all he is. So yeah, honestly, even I'm actually going to put him in B tier. Like, I don't think he deserves A tier. He really is kind of outshined a lot these days by just so many other Warframes. Do you want proof? Okay. Do I need to replay that for you? Okay, that's cool. I'll replay it for you. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. I'm not even touching them. Like, seriously. Like, this is just stupid. I literally tapped them once. Like, it's just stupid. Her damage output is actually stupid. I think that speaks for itself. No. It's not enough. Never mind. The still path modifier was already on. It's so stupid. Sevagoth. For the longest time, I said Sevagoth was just mediocre because he was expensive to build for, which is still true. But he wasn't bad. His abilities had stuff going for him. He just kind of needed the right amount of augments to make him work. And what did we get for him? We got a few augments, and look at him now. Like, seriously. He has had, like, one of the biggest go-ups, I swear. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, he's honestly one of the best nukes in the game now. I mean, I used Warframe just before, but I didn't need to. Like, there's like level 190 heavy gunners, still path modifier or some crap like that, right? Like, he is one of the best nukes in the game now. He is so good. However, his shadow, while you can make a nuke setup for his shadow, there's still, like, not a lot to be loved about it. Like, the sad truth of the matter is his shadow has terrible survivability, and also building for his shadow is just a lot more expensive than his normal form, meaning you're much better off just not using it, which is kind of the opposite of what should be the reality. Like, even look at this, right? Like, the nuke setup on this build isn't working as well. Like, if we respawn them, we can go into my shadow now. And if we do this little one here. Like, yeah, like, look, we can nuke with the shadow, right? Like, we can do some good stuffs with it. But it's just like, yeah. It has terrible survivability. It's hard to mod for. It's very expensive to mod for. It's a shame that, like, he's kind of meant to be about his shadow. Like, Sevagoth should be the supporting character for his shadow, and Sevagoth is so much better than his shadow. And also, I feel like that degrades him quite a bit. Versatile, capable of doing, because you can make weapon platform builds as well with him as well, though they're not nearly as good as his nuke setups, and he is easily one of the best nukes in the game now. Design-wise, he still has a long way to go. Grouping, energy regen, armor strip, health, shields, overguard, and a lot of damage. And more energy regen that you could ever want if you were using Nourish. But like I said, we're not basing this off our helmets. Like, you can still do this even without Nourish. as you can see, while it is capable of doing good damage, it's not Dagath, it's not Saren. Like, it's not like the most over-the-top crazy DPS in the game. I think the most amazing thing about Cynax is, well, especially with Nourish, right? Like, he gives you so much energy regen, he gives you that viral buff, he gives you the damage, the ability DPS, and the Overguard too. Like, he's great for Overguards. Like, he's very powerful, he's a very good support Warframe, because he gives teammates energy regen, shield regen, Overguard, he can armor strip enemies. There's a lot to love there. Versatile, you can make weapon platform builds with him, he gets a crit chance buff from his passive, you can make ability DPS builds with him, I just showed you one. Like, yeah, there's a lot to love there. Titania, I don't feel confident ranking Titania. Trinity, just got her rework. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Trinity is honestly already kind of pretty good. Her rework really just cleaned her out a bit, made her abilities feel a bit nicer to use, and made her very better, really. But, like, she's an extremely powerful tank. She has a lot of healing. One of the best shield tanks in the game, honestly. And she's a pretty good weapon platform. Like, her third with the augment is with the armor strip. You can get the crit chance from her fourth with its augment, though it's a bit hard to build for. I did already make a video on her showing off a Champion Blessing build. I do actually want to make another build for her that doesn't use Champion Blessing because, like I said, it's a bit funky with the way it works. But, like, yeah, she's really fun. She's honestly a pretty good support now after the buffs, especially for new players. I mean, she gets a health gate from her first ability now as well, which is awesome for new players. Like, she's probably the best support when it comes if you're helping out a new player. But the health gate has a cooldown. Nidus, Overguard, Shields, Martyr Symbiosis. Why are we giving gating mechanics cooldowns? Anyway, she's much better than... Oh, no, not even much better. Like, she was already pretty good. Like, you can nuke with her with the second ability and Mark for Death. A lot of utility there. Really, she's just cleaned up, right? Like, she doesn't have the power level to be S tier, but she's a lot... The design is a lot better now after her soft rework. She's a bit cleaner now. And, like, yeah, there's a lot to love about her. You can do a lot of stuff with her. She's pretty cool. I'm Valkyrie and I have Overguard, though. I carried over my Overguard from Stynax. That's funny. So, Valkyrie. She's a pretty bad Warframe, right? Like, her Exalted is bad, right? It's bad. She's bad. She's a bad Warframe. Guys, why won't you believe me? She's a bad Warframe. Like, she's not good, guys. She's a bad Warframe, guys. She's very bad. Like, guys, she's a bad Warframe. Okay, if you can't get the picture here, the joke I'm making is that a lot of people would recognize Valkyrie as being a bad Warframe, but as you can see, she's really powerful. She does a lot of damage, and she's invincible the whole time. And this is where I'm making my comparisons to Baruuk, because let's talk about what these two Warframes do. They have exalted melees that are fists or claws of some degree, right? They run of high tank setups. In Valkyrie's case, she's entirely invincible. In Baruuk's case, he has just as a lot of damage reduction. Valkyrie, unlike Baruuk, doesn't need to maintain resilience. And the funny thing about their two augments is their stats are actually incredibly similar, except Valkyrie's has higher attack speed, lower crit chance, and I think higher base damage. Maybe Baruuk has higher base damage. Baruuk's augment will definitely make it do more damage, but as you saw, Valkyrie's Exalted does stupendous amount of damage. First ability, terrible. Third ability, terrible. Second ability, really good actually. Passive, terrible. Fourth ability, amazing. She balances out to be around about average. Really, really powerful, but half of her kit is dog water, so she balances out to be average. But her mere existence does also kind of degrade Baruuk, because she does pretty much what Baruuk does, but kind of better. So, yeah. Valbin, I also don't know enough about Valbin to rank him, though I will say I do believe he is the most overrated Warframe in the game. But whatever. Stupidly versatile. So much he can do. Weapon platform, nuke setups, support even. like the meta for Eidolons, the meta for PT speed runs, honestly probably the meta for Archon hunts as well. Like, he is fantastic. I strongly believe he is the best starter Warframe for a new player. Like, as out of the three, which one of the three would be better to pick up? I believe him. Though I do believe overall Mag is more powerful than him, which is funny because he's S tier and she's A tier, but again, the versatility issue. Like, there's just so much to love about Volt. I think it would make sense to not put him in S tier. I don't have Varuna currently, which is really funny because I keep meaning to get Varuna because I keep coming up with builds for Varuna. There's a lot she can do. She's really cool. She's a really cool Warframe. And I keep coming up with builds. Every now and then someone will be like, oh, what do you recommend for this build? And I'll be like, I don't know. And then I think about it. I'm like, oh, if you do this and this and this with Varuna, you can do this and this. Like, there's so much fun stuff you can do with Varuna. I think she should deserve an A tier, no questions asked. But again, I haven't played her enough to confidently say that. So I am just going to put her in that tier down below. Not quite, because her fourth ability sucks. But definitely S. Like, again, her second is more than half of Loki's kit. She gets health regen, passive crowd control, fire rate, attack speed, movements. She might not get attack speed, but she definitely gets the movement speed and fire rate just from her first ability. Her third ability is a damage buff to melees because of the stealth damage buff. It spreads that damage, increasing its damage buff. It crits, and Frost can make it red crit with its biting Frost augment. Breach Surge does stupendous amounts of damage, and like spreads gives you AoE to your weapons. Breach Surge is insane. Like the second ability, crowd control, invisibility, invulnerability, because when you teleport you get iframes, and teleportation, and also creates a second instance of Breach Surge. Like, she is a ridiculously powerful Warframe and exceptionally good support without even trying. Very versatile. She is very powerful. Very good for new players. He has a lot of survivability. But I ask you again, what do you do for Wukong when it comes to damage? Do you just put on any powerful weapon and run raw? Like you were Inaros? Yeah. I mean, well, you have Slam Wukong, but that's dead now, isn't it? Like, yeah. I mean, that's basically it, right? Like, he has a lot of survivability. There's definitely a lot to love about him. His Exalted is pretty bad, though. Good Warframe. Don't get me wrong. Good Warframe. I only think he deserves B tier. I don't think he deserves higher than B. Probably can't show this off too well in the Sanctum Atomica. Let me try. Not Sanctum Atomica. Whatever this thing is called. Simulacrum. But my Zaku Prime video, which is funny because I actually don't have Zaku Prime yet, will show this build off, which I'm about to show you a lot better. We'll pause the AI just in case. But like, bro is just a little bit silly. We want this one. Sorry, my bad. Can we? Thank you. Like, I just run around and why do you have armor? Why is my game bugged? Oh, because I accuse. I see what happened. They've been accused. I accused them of transgressions. There we go. We'll do that one. Do this one. Do that one. I'm running out of energy already. We'll do this one. We'll do that one. And like, I just kind of sit here. Maybe do some viral priming. Like, yeah. And the thing about its second ability is that it scales off enemies' health level. So like, it scales into high levels. And you just run around, maybe do some priming, and like let your second just do all the work and just kill all the enemies for you. Like, he's powerful. Well, they're powerful to say the least. Like, it, and he can be a weapon platform as well. His first ability is one of the best weapon buffs in the game. It's not Toxic Lash, but it's almost Toxic Lash. So yeah, like they are extremely powerful. I cannot tell you how many times I have tried to come up with a build for Ureli. Like, the amount of times I have come up with a build for Ureli since March, back when Dante came out, Ureli got a new augment, and I said on my YouTube channel, in one of my videos, I will be making a Ureli video. You'll know that video never came out. Why? Because I can't make a build for her because she's bad. Like, every time, like, I've made builds for her and they've worked. Like, they've done what they need to do. But every time I think of a build and I'm testing it, I think to myself, this build could be better on this Warframe instead of Yreli. And I cannot bring myself to make a YouTube video on that because I feel dishonest. Because if I can make that build better on another Warframe, that is not the standard I want my builds to be. I've thought of multiple builds. I have tested multiple builds on her. And every time I do, I have said to myself, this is not the standard I want the builds on my YouTube channel to be. And I never made the video and scrapped the idea. I've actually thought of a new idea for her that I haven't tested yet. And we'll see if that one turns out. But I have gone through so many ideas for her. And like, there's things that are good about her. And I honestly think she just needs a little... I don't think she needs a rework. I just think she needs a light rework, if even. She just needs a few tweaks to the way her abilities work. And she could be really good. Like, she's on the edge of being really good. Like, her first ability is good. Her second ability honestly just needs to allow you to use both the augments at once. Third ability, okay, that needs to be replaced. That's trash. The fourth ability is a good grouping ability for this very instance you cast it, and then for the next 2 seconds of the ability, it does everything in its power to make itself a bad grouping ability. Why? Like, oh, she makes me upset because I like her. Like, I like Yreli as a Warframe, but every time I play with her, I just get sad because she's bad. Yeah, so, yeah. Hold on. I don't even know what I called her. Did I call her bird or something? What did I call her? Do I even have a loadout for her? Yeah, I do. Fly. That's the one. Is the right setup? Yeah, it's the right setup. Let's do this one. Oh, okay. Actually. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. We need to show off her whole kit first. I now can't die. Okay, well, let's just pretend my Hound isn't doing an excellent job of crowd controlling enemy. Hound, go away. Okay, I'm sorry. My companion is ruining this demonstration. I apologize. It's not my fault. It's my Hound. I know it's my fault. I trained him poorly. Anyway, let's do that one again. So remember Revenant? Yeah, we have another one of those. Okay, I can be hit by melee damage. I can be hit by melee. I just got hit by bullets. But hey, that's okay. Oh yeah, let's do this one now. Oh no. They're dead. Guys, okay. Her sliding is a bit much. Oh no. They're dead. Not quite to the level of stupidity as, say, Saren is. But, like, invincibility from a third ability, and crazy powerful weapon platform. Hey, guess what? She also has a passive, like Yreli, that gives you a crit chance buff. Funny that. And, like, crit chance, grouping, which gives her base damage buff to secondaries. Like, she's the better Yreli, honestly. Yeah, she's ridiculous. Why is Corvex not before Yreli? Why is Corvex last? Okay, well, I guess Corvex is last. I'm gonna go and talk about his abilities in the order of which I think they're best to worst. His second ability is a terrible grouping ability. Why? Because it doesn't actually group enemies, it just kind of puts them in a line. But I'm not mad at this because I think his second ability works and makes a lot of sense with his kit. His fourth ability can be quite powerful for DPS, but we cannot ignore the fact that it simply still breaks up the flow of gameplay by forcing you into a fixed animation and making it so you can't move. This gameplay is all about movement. It's one of the biggest selling points of this game, so obviously there's going to be a lot of pushback, and it's kind of just a bad design to implement that into your game. His first ability is literally just a worse epitaph. Like, I can put a gun on my companion I can put a gun on myself, and it will be better than his first ability. His third ability is just Prime Sure-Footed. Sure, it gives you complete status immunity, not just for knockback, but he doesn't need status immunity because he has the highest armor value in the game and one of the highest health values in the game, and so he's just naturally tanky, meaning status effects really don't bother him. The only status effects that would bother him is knockback, and you know what I can use with knockback? Prime Sure-Footed, or Inaros even. I don't need an ability that becomes obsolete with a bloody mod. First ability gives you punch through. Oh, sorry, passive gives you punch through. Wow, his passive is a weapon damage buff. That makes a lot of sense, considering none of his abilities is set up for weapon platforms, except maybe his second with the augment that armor strips. Like, he is so poorly designed. It honestly feels like DE just threw some random ideas together, and they didn't really know what they were doing. They're like, oh, we need to quickly come up with a Warframe. Quick, let's do this. Like, it feels rushed. There's no substance to his ability. Sure, he's capable of doing some damage, but he's not versatile. Like, if you want to make a weapon platform from him, I don't know why you would. He is poorly designed. He is not that powerful even. Yeah, he gets a D tier. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the video. That's all my tiers. These are all the Warframes. This is the tier list. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me some recommendations for Warframes you'd like to see me make builds for in the future. Tell me in the comment section how I did a terrible job in this video and how all of my rankings are completely wrong and how you know better than me and I'm terrible at this game and know nothing. Please tell me that. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. Remember, I will be doing the community tier list thing I did in my Discord, so if you are interested in that, Discord link is in the description down below. Do check that out. And until next time, bye-bye.